guys, and welcome to the Gameweek 3 show. We will review the Gameweek 2, and we will look at the Gameweek 3 ahead of us. And if you like the video, like it and subscribe. We're a small channel, so we really appreciate all of our support. And yeah, let's start the show with our first segment. So, first game that I saw was Arsenal-Burnley, and my first note on that was that Ceballos, I guess his name is, he's on corners. Yeah, he's on corners, and that's really good for 5.5, and he played at number 10. I'm a little bit worried about his potential rotation risk. I mean, he had a great game, but Emery is Emery. Like I said, had a great game too, and it doesn't mean that he will continue playing. I really liked Barnes, and he came close before the goal as well. And yeah, Burnley were very dangerous on set pieces. So yeah, maybe Burnley defenders actually could be a thing. But yeah, if you have Pope, that's obviously enough. But as I said, I think, like I said, looked really good. Then the other game that I saw was Manchester City Spurs. And yeah, Manchester City was all over Spurs, obviously. And KDB was involved in everything. Yeah, but Spurs just show that, like in the Champions League, that they are very, hard to break down or hard to win against. They had like 3 shots. I think Kane had 1 shot. So maybe not the guy who you want against the top 6 teams, but Spurs as a team finds a way to get these points, and I think it was fun for the league. And FPL-wise, I'm not interested in any Spurs asset except for a little bit Kane, obviously. He's their star, but I am very keen on getting on board the Son train right now. I think people know how good he is, and they would like to own him, but we, with a wild card, have an advantage that we can pick him and create a team around him instead of trying to fit him in. So he's firmly on my radar. Obviously, KDB was amazing. Sterling was amazing. And yeah, you have to say that KDB is the guy to have right now. We all kind of expected that this could happen, but not everyone was sure about it. I wasn't. I didn't start him. I thought he might do stuff like this, but I wasn't sure. But for 9.5 million, he's a must. The third game was Wolves Manchester United that I saw, and so United started out strong, and yeah, they had a missed pen, so overall they probably were the better team. But Wolves, they showed that they are very hard to break down. And FPL-wise, I do think I like Bowley, the defender, as a defensive asset the most. Obviously, Jimenez is a god, but they struggled to get like good chances, even though they have good intensity and good. Most of what they are doing is good, but they don't get those great chances, and therefore not many goals per game. And I do like Jota still, but maybe there's better value among that price pool with Pukki and Barnes, for instance. Yeah, then Donker also looks good. He follows up in offensively. But you probably want to play a 5-man midfield right now because there are so many like nice midfielders to own with Ceballos and Trossard and Mount for just a little bit more money. So that was my notes and observations from the game that I saw.
Yeah. I actually didn't watch the Arsenal game, but I do have some general thoughts just looking at some like summaries, and that is, I'm starting to think maybe Dyche now has gained something by playing the same group of players for a long time, so they have added some sort of attack to what usually has been seen as a defensive team with Barnes and McNeil just starting to click together. So, and that shows because Barnes now had 3 goals. But yeah, I didn't watch the match, of course, so I just read every here and there that they broke through a lot. Ceballos is, well, that's the thing that worries me. Is he under pressure from Ozil, or has he secured his spot? Or maybe he performing well turns Ozil even better, for all we know. But he had more assists than Ozil had last season in a game, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So the first game I actually watched was the Liverpool match, and the first half, Liverpool didn't convince me. It was a little bit here and there. It's sort of like the tendencies we've seen a little bit from Liverpool, like in the Super Cup and in the Community. They sort of have a weak first half, and then Klopp does something in the break, which all of a sudden, when Liverpool come back on the field, they look like a complete different team and dominate the match. In that team, Mane is obviously the player to watch, and he seems to be in the form he ended his season on. He had 8 touches in the opposition box and 5 attempted assists. That tells you something. Like, Salah's stats also were good, but Salah is sort of what I was complaining about last season. He produces good stats, but he doesn't give returns because he keeps missing stuff. And some can argue that 120 minutes in his leg on Wednesday might have an influence on it. That's sort of why I would say he's a little bit of a hold right now, because maybe he wakes up again against Arsenal. We don't know. The City Spurs match, all I wrote down is City looks like monsters. KDB is a monster. But then again, Spurs are kryptonite for City. It's sort of Spurs VAR is kryptonite. It happens all the time. And Lucas Moura might be the kryptonite. He comes on and he scores. It's funny. But you saw how City made Spurs just run around everywhere. It was rough for them, and they were lucky, I would say. But yeah. Sheffield I only watched in the background, and they're just your typical hardworking collective of players, with obviously Lundstram being the guy to look at. That train is gone. It has started now. It has left the station.
The left first station, yeah.
The most typical FPL thing happening now is he's not in the starting 11 next week. So
that won't happen after scoring.
Nah, he's playing good. Obviously watched the Chelsea match, and they dominated the first like 20-30 minutes, sort of like they've done all the matches now. And they could have punctured the match. They're just not clinical enough. And after that, they failed to keep up, and one can wonder, is it an inexperienced manager? I'm not entirely sure it is that yet. I think it's more a question of maybe a little bit of fatigue from a bunch of young players. And I hate to say it, Azpilicueta is... The age has caught up to him. You can blame him for like 2-3 goals this season already. So defensively, Chelsea is a little bit uncertain because the 2 center backs have to cover up for a right back that doesn't do his job at all. And attackingly, we have players that aren't clinical enough. Tammy misses. Giroud doesn't know what an offside is still. But then again, some positives. Rudiger played a full match for the U23, and Batshuayi also played that match, and he dominated there. So there might be some rotation going on there as well. And then Wolves, Manchester United. I like to call Wolves the first team to really scratch into the top 6. And I would say they as well were unlucky not to score another goal, and United were unlucky not to score more. It's sort of unlucky. But this was the toughest challenge yet for United, facing a low-lying team that was sort of a defensive, they were laying low, big defensive team, and United struggled to find a room to get through, sort of. But then again, I think they did good. But Wolves, well, they had a spider in United that sort of blocked Jota, that sort of lacked the creativity. And then they saw on the right side with Shaw, Traore had a lot more fun. So it was kind of fun to look at. So that's my notes from the matches.
I have wildcarded, so this will be very, very exciting. But you haven't wildcarded, but you're thinking about it. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm still pondering it.
Martial could score 20 plus goals this season, which is ridiculous for a 7.5. You thought that Rashford were a good 7.5 last season. We thought that Jimenez was, which he was, but he maybe scored like 12 goals. I haven't looked it up, but I can see Martial score over 20 goals, and it's not that far fetched. He just needs to keep his form and improve a little bit, because he can still improve. He still hasn't played a lot up top, so I can only see him improving. But he has some kind of instinct that Rashford doesn't, and that's why I think Martial gets to play there. And Rashford is a tremendous player out wide as well. I want to see him on the ball, take on a guy. But Martial, he just needs to be there to poke it in or rolling it in by the goalkeeper. And what else? KDB, as I said, he's a must for me. Those two, you should really get them as soon as possible. Now, Pukki, of course, is a very cool player, but he played Newcastle, so I want him and I have him because I'm on my wild card. But I think it's a little bit he's a little bit overhyped, maybe. He's a fine player. He's probably good value, but it's not like you have to rip up your team just to fit him in. But yeah, I prefer him in that price bracket, and he's obviously an easy downgrade for me from Wilson. It's not as easy if you have Firmino, I would say, because Firmino has been looking good, and I've seen a couple of teams with Firmino, and I definitely hold him. Yeah, if you don't have Sterling, it's maybe time to get him in. Only reason to not have Sterling right now is if you are on two Manchester City defenders and KDB. Then I wouldn't rip up my team, because the defenders are possibly the best defenders to own right now in Manchester City. I'm just name dropping, but yeah, Wan-Bissaka is on my wildcard team. He's very highly owned, so it's not that big of a like transfer for most, and but it's kind of easy to do from Robertson. I don't really like Liverpool's fixtures going forward. They have like one easy and one tough, and with a 7 mil guy on the bench, I don't know what I would do. But with Wan-Bissaka, his schedule is definitely okay. He has Arsenal and Liverpool in game week 7 and 9, but apart from that, his schedule is very good actually from game week 3 to 14. So he's a bonus points magnet. He showed that he can assist, even though he came close, but he didn't. And apart from that, we have a couple of guys, as I said, in the 6 mil bracket who I don't know, who I want the most. I really like Mount, but at the same time, I'm not confident in Chelsea's offense. And yeah, I like Trossard more maybe as a player, but that also, yeah, you have to have faith in a Brighton side that I'm definitely not comfortable in yet as well, but I've heard good stuff about them. Ceballos, maybe the best value pick, but 2 tough fixtures coming up. So is this the right time for him? I don't know. We talked about Pukki the last show, if you watched it, as our differential. So and everyone knows now that he has a hat trick. So I don't feel like I want to repeat myself by him being a good pick and he can score against anyone. What's your transfer tips?
There's a lot of them. I narrowed it down to 4 because I could just keep on talking.
Yeah.
The first name on my list, the one person I also, like me and Oscar, both pointed out last video with Pookie. I know his matches his fixtures don't look as good, but as I mentioned, Chelsea look a little bit weird backwards, so I can see him scoring against Chelsea. I truly do see him scoring there because of Azpilicueta fumble or something again. So, and like I also stated before, he has confidence. Like the first thing you do, you come up from the Championship. The first match you play in the Premier League, you score against Liverpool. What do? You follow it up with a hat trick, and then you must feel invincible being that one guy. Just he has 4 goals. He's how old is he? 29 years old. He's from Finland. He's everything about him is just a cool story, and I think it will just keep on going on because Norwich doesn't really hold back. They just go out all out attack. Like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, okay then. So Pookie is one of them. I also mentioned last time Luke Shaw, because looking at the United match yesterday, he keeps on running into the box. He's on the edge of the box. He all of a sudden he just does this weird drive towards goal and tries to score himself. I just looked up. He actually has 31 successful final third passes, which is pretty good, and he also has 2 attempted assists. So it's sort of you can. I stand by he's the better. Like Wan-Bissaka is the points magnet. Shaw is the potential goal or assist, I would say.
He's kind of a differential as well because
yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So next on my list, I have surprise, surprise, Mason Mount. As I've already mentioned, he is by far the best Chelsea player right now on the pitch. He's demonstrating his skill and why Lampard trusts him so much. Also, the fixtures, if you look at their fixtures, it's green all the way, some would say. It has to turn around for Chelsea soon, I would say. That's just and also it might seem Barkley's back on the bench, just being like maybe your squad player backing up for Mount. It seems like he's trying to make the team just a young collective more than playing Barkley, I guess. Last on my list, Martial. What more is there to say? His stats are ridiculous. He's out of position. He's a bargain. He looks dangerous. He lacks some. He lacks some clinicalness just to like get all those goals. Just start firing up, but all of a sudden he gets on that confidence train like Pookie is, and then boom, there we go. So that was like the 4 I've actually written some comments regarding. I also look at Barnes, I look at Ceballos, I look at Emerson, I look at the list goes on and on and on and on. I haven't decided. Even Heung-min Son is a little bit interesting now. Harry Kane is interesting. Aubameyang isn't. And that's why I can't really decide myself if I want a wildcard or not. I know there's so many people wildcarding, and I know that next game week is probably going to be a high-scoring one. And it's almost like doing the wildcard then is sort of trying to defend yourself. Yeah, that's my transfer tips.
And the good thing about wildcarding, like a little bit later, there's some international breaks that can definitely mess up your team.
And especially the international breaks now, because they're playing for the Euro qualifications, and then the matches get a little bit more higher intensity, and then injuries sort of happen quite quick.
Yeah, so that's one to consider as well. So let's move on to captaincy. So we were right about the last time captaincy. We had a feeling for Sterling, and he provided the goods. But this week, I'm probably going for Sterling. That is my tip, at least. Bournemouth has been looking quite poor on both ends of the field. Manchester City, the best team in the world right now. If they score 5 against West Ham, who defended for their lives, I mean, Bournemouth are going to concede at least 3 goals. I know this game ended 0-1, but that was a miracle that it did, in a way, for Bournemouth. They defended whole game. They defended well, but it's a long shot that they are just going to concede 1 goal in this game. And so, I have no counter arguments versus Sterling, except there's always 10 or 20% chance that he gets benched all of a sudden and everyone hates Pep. But I can certainly see that happening less because he's been their best player together with KDB, the most important player. And he doesn't have that depth at left wing right now. Who would he play if he doesn't play Sterling? I mean, I can't come up with anyone good really who can do it, because Sané is obviously gone, and Mahrez wants to play on the right wing. Bernardo Silva wants to play on that wing as well. So I have no idea how Pep is gonna mess this up for us. So I have to go Sterling, and but there are obviously some nice ones. Sterling for me. What I wanted to say is I don't have that secure feeling still, even though logic speaks to Sterling. But last week it was, I have a good feeling about Sterling. This week I don't have it as much, so I'm a little bit afraid of that. I always want the gut feeling and that side also, the intuition to be in place. But I think it was very clear for me that Sterling was the guy to have last week. I was very convinced about that. I'm kind of convinced right now. I think Kane is messing my feelings up. I really would like to own Kane or punt on Heung-min Son, but I think you can't really go wrong with Sterling. He's a safe pick. He's an explosive pick. Manchester City are on fire. They should have scored 3. It was like millimeters away with a VAR decision against Spurs. So they are averaging what? Really, if VAR wasn't included, they would have scored 6 versus West Ham and 3 versus Spurs, and they would be up at 4.5 goals.
They had 33 shots against Tottenham. 33. How often those numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, what happened last season that made them go into a dip was Fernandinho was gone, and they signed Rodri for that reason, and they have like super depth everywhere. But now Sané is gone, so as I said, the depth is probably the worst on Sterling's position. But otherwise, I can't see them going into a dip right now. Who are you captaining?
Well, I'd say for captaincy this week is the usual suspects. That's sort of the ones I'm looking at. But there's one person that usually that stands out because the team he plays against has not been convincing backwards. The keeper spot is a little weird. So it's Sterling. It is, but yeah, it's sort of the same reason. They just have the ridiculous numbers of shots, ridiculous numbers on everything and they played against West Ham, which one could argue is a little bit better backwards. And also they played against Spurs, which is on paper better backwards. The Cherries hasn't looked good backwards at all. So, but if you want to do a punt, I would say always cap the player, the top player playing against Newcastle, so you can do Harry Kane or even more punty Heung-min Son.
It's not even punty. I mean, Newcastle is a really, really, really good picture. It's almost like facing, Fulham or Huddersfield last time. It was in hindsight, we could have gone for that strategy. Just captain the guy who plays one of those teams, and you would get a return every time. And I feel that's the way now with Newcastle, probably, until I've been proven wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And the Liverpool-Arsenal match, it could be a high-scoring one, because Arsenal are, like we know, terrible backwards. And Liverpool has looked shaky backwards, so it could be a high-scoring game. So you can either... I don't think you'll go wrong with Aubameyang or Salah or Mane there, but they're more of a risk than anything. It could be the dullest match ever, being a 0-0 match, or it could be a 1-0 match, or it could be just a complete goal fest, like a 3-4 match. Who knows? But I would say Klopp is looking for having that defensive structure again, I guess. So it might be they all of a sudden just shut down Arsenal.
Yeah.
Just look at us now. We're back, and everyone's saying, "Oh shit, we sold both our Liverpool defenders."
Yeah, that's certainly a risk. I remember, I think it was 5-1 last season, one of these meetings, and Firmino scored a hat-trick. Aubameyang had 6 touches in the whole game, and I think 5 of those were kickoff touches.
Yeah, I remember that now when you mention it. Yeah, it was a 5-1 match at Anfield. Hat-trick, Firmino, and a goal from Mane, and a goal from Salah. So yeah, that's my captaincy. It's going to go on Sterling. I'm quite certain I'm going to place it there. I would say that's the safe pick, and that's most likely who everyone's going to pick now. At least he's going to have the highest effective ownership, I would say.
So we've done a list with guys who are uncertain to play maybe, or not that uncertain, but there's still a little risk and a little concern. And I think we nailed this one last game week. So trying to do it again this game week. I have first off Heung-min Son. There's a lot of doubt about him, but he was the star last season. I think Pochettino wants to play him ASAP, maybe only 70 minutes or something, but still, I think he will start. I put him up at 80% for that reason.
Yeah. All I've written behind him is the return. How much match fitness does he have? We don't know, but Poch is probably, like you say, going to ease him into it. So 60 to 70 minutes, and I have him at 85%. So we're quite close there.
We're in agreement there. Okay.
Yeah.
Next guy we have Jesus, and I talked about last week that I was certain that, based on what Pep has said, that Jesus was so good and so on, that it was easier for him to play Aguero after that statement, and he did. So that read was right. Now I have Jesus at about the same percentage. I have him at 30%. I do think that it's more likely that he'll play the away games, because Pep had that rotation going on in 2 seasons ago. So Aguero played mostly at home and Jesus played mostly away, and to keep them fit and to keep it competitive. So maybe I'm a little bit on the lower side here. But I do think Aguero is the first guy, and so I put Jesus at 30%.
Yeah. Like I said last time, there is something going on that forward spot. You're seeing Pep and Aguero arguing when they get off. Okay, they hugged it off afterwards, but still, there's something that doesn't feel right up there, and I can see him, like I said last time, playing Jesus more, and trying to do either Aguero an early sub or like get him on later on. So it sort of seems like he's trying to limit his minutes to keep him fresh the entire season, sort of. So I placed Jesus at 60% actually.
Nice. Okay. Next guy we have Mason Mount. I've said it right in this video. After a performance like this, I can't see him being dropped. He was their best player. And Kovacic was great against Liverpool and still was benched in this game in the Premier League, which was a little bit surprising. So he must rate Mount really highly. And yeah, after a performance like this, I put him on 90%. So just 10% that he won't start this game. I can see him being rotated maybe if he dips in form, basically. But right now, I think he has to play.
Yeah, he's been by far the Chelsea's best player. And I think the pecking order in the midfield is Kanté, Jorginho, Mount, and then Kovacic, and then Barkley.
I agree.
So I has gone as bold and say he 100% starts.
Perfect. No, yeah, nothing wrong can come and bite you back.
No, nothing at all.
Have to be bold. Okay, so Ings is our next guy. I put him there because I think he was class last game. He looked real sharp. He took his goal well, and yeah, he is class basically. And I think he's 70% likely to start. I do rate him higher than that, really. I do, but there's something about Hasenhüttl's rotation that like puts me off a little bit from going higher than that. So, what do you think about Ings?
I don't know. I sort of see Ings as a little bit of a squad player and sort of a like a substitute for when Che Adams gets tired. I would say so. I have placed Ings rather low on the. I've actually had him. He has played 92 minutes since the beginning of the season, so I have him at 5%.
Oh,
yeah,
that's very interesting. I think when you say that, I think that I might be way off, but just going by the fact that he improved their team a lot when he came on,
yeah.
I think that has to count for something. Okay, so we're in disagreement about that one, but so maybe stay off of Ings, basically. Last guy is Mora. We're going to talk about Mora. I know you own Mora and been a little bit lucky scoring that goal. It's not lucky because it was a great finish, jumping over Walker, but still, Spurs didn't have much. But Mora has been a good player for them last part of last season in the Champions League in a game against Huddersfield where he scored 3. I do think Mora was an okay pick for a game week 1 team. I don't think he is a good long-term pick. I think you've had your good run with Mora. With that said, I forgot to put a percentage on this guy, but let me think of something. I think there's a decent chance he might get dropped because Son is back. I'm going to put Mora at just 25%.
Yeah. Mora can play as good as he wants. He always gets benched. That's sort of what I feel. He could play an amazing match and he gets benched the next match. And Lamela playing over him, I sort of, it's almost weird because I rate Mora higher than him, but I don't think he fits that well with Kane. So it might be something there, I don't know. And then Son come back as well, so I have Mora at 10%.
Yep. Seems reasonable. The others, and these are the differential guys. I've picked 3 of them. First, I'm going to say Cantwell in Norwich. He's so cheap, and he has this role where he feeds Pukki. So if you somehow don't want Pukki in your team, but Cantwell could easily be a nice guy to have to cover Pukki in a way. But yeah, probably the best cheap enabler in the game in midfield, I would say. So next guy is, I can't pronounce this guy's name. It's a lot of German Y's and stuff, but he's Turkish and Soyuksun. And yeah, when you see a player at 4.5 in a team like Leicester, I want him. They should be about 5.5, like Maguire was when you're in that kind of team that's like top 8 tipped. And Evans is 5 mil, I think. And obviously, you just take 0.5 for the same kind of points, which is really good. I think Soyuksun is priced that way because Maguire was obviously their first choice. So he's almost he's at least 0.5 million too cheap, in my opinion. Depends on how Leicester will perform. My last differential pick is Trossard, and I think he's under 1%, but he was supposedly, from what I've read, the most offensive guy in all of Brighton. So the guy, if you look at his heat map, I think he was the guy who was forward the most, and he is maybe on set pieces, I don't know, because Gross and him probably will take some from each other. But I think he was in preseason, so there's definitely some potential there. He scored a goal, and the reason why he wasn't in the first team in the first game week was because Potter, he didn't want to basically play any new signings in the first game. He wanted to see how the old squad was going to do, and they did well, which was a nice one from the manager. So who are your guys?
Well, I've taken a little note of a name that you have written or talked about, and that's McGoldrick. Because I've been playing about with some stats, and I haven't really watched him that much, but just looking at some of the stats I like to look at is sort of big chances missed, which is sort of a sign of this guy is shooting somewhere, at least. And he's topping that stat, and he has some good attacking stats, really, and has played a lot. And for a 5.5 player, that's pretty good value, actually. So he might be, if you just want to fill up your squad with someone who might give you some attacking returns, he might be the one, for all we know. If you want, I know there's a lot of people emphasizing the mid now, so he might be your little clue there. And it's almost weird to put Firmino in there, but I sort of feel Firmino is one of the others. He's at 10%, but looking at him now, he does all this. When Firmino starts scoring goals, he sort of have this flair over him, and he sort of has that flair now, and it's so fun to look at him doing the flicks and crossing the boxes and whatever he does. It's just super fun to look at, and actually not that bad of stats on him either. It's like touches in the opposition box is 10. That's quite high. Sterling's at 20, and 10 is not bad at all for a player that sort of can be seen as the defensive part of the triangle up top. And our last one, also a little weird with the coming fixture, is Gudmundsson. Barnes is doing good, and Gudmundsson just had those solid underlying stats. I know he's in a price bracket that's where both Trossard and Mount is, so he might be outshined by those, but if Barnes keep doing what he does, Gudmundsson might be quite good value as well. So that's my 3 other guys this week.
Cool. So that will conclude our video. It has been great to talk with you, Jogi, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, have a good game week, and I'll see you next week.
Subscribe.
Subscribe, do it.